All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. The power of the Protestant work ethic, transforming your life and society. Written by Rigor. Available now. Links in description. The power of the Protestant work ethic, a field guide for men who still notice reality. The passenger seat parasite. How female solipsism turns male competence into a crime and a travel toothbrush into a weapon of war. I want you to imagine a world where basic hygiene is a hate crime. We have officially arrived at the terminus of leftist intellectual decay, standing waist-deep in the refuse of critical theory, where a woman with a PhD can stare at a man's travel toothpaste and see the apparatus of a totalitarian state. This essay before us, this hysterical screed against microcolonial transit violence, is not simply a joke. It is the logical endpoint of a gynocentric culture that has weaponized female resentment into a pseudo-intellectual cult. Let us define our terms with surgical precision as the grammarians of old demanded. Violence requires physical force and malicious intent to inflict harm. Occupation requires a foreign military presence. By perverting these words to describe a man who brought his own Sensodyne and a memory foam cushion, the author commits semantic fraud. She strips language of its objective reality, recasting male competence as cruelty to mask the terrifying void of her own irrelevance. Behold the solipsism of the female lens, a psychological projection so vast it eclipses the sun. The observer looks at a man tending to his microbiome or adjusting his lumbar support and interprets these silent acts of self-governance strictly in relation to herself. In her delusion, she believes his internal world, his discipline, his health, his peace, is actually a covert operation designed to invalidate her existence. She constructs a syllogism of pure madness. Major premise: a man who prepares for a road trip is self-sufficient. Minor premise: female self-worth is tethered to male dependency. Conclusion: therefore, male self-sufficiency is an act of psychological aggression. She demonizes him not because he harms her, but because his independence highlights her parasitic need to be needed. She is furious that he can be clean without her, because if he does not require her managerial chaos, she is forced to confront the horrifying emptiness of her own character. The true tyranny in this scenario is not the man's packing list, but the woman's cowardice, dressed up as sociological victimhood. The writer paints her protagonist as a helpless hostage, scrolling her phone in silence because she cannot muster the vocal cords to ask for a different temperature or a snack stop. This is the core of modern feminism, the infantilization of women and the total abdication of agency. It is infinitely easier to play the martyr in the passenger seat, cultivating a low hum of resentment, than it is to open one's mouth and speak like an adult. She injects the Marxist oppressor-oppressed matrix into the domestic sphere, reducing a loving relationship to a plantation simply because she lacks the fortitude to say, "Turn left here." She does not want a partnership of self-reliant adults. She wants a dependent she can resent or a master she can accuse. all while contributing nothing but her own unmanaged neuroses. What we are witnessing here is the clash of two irreconcilable ethics, the Protestant work ethic versus the parasitic ethic. The man packing his bag, securing his spine, and tending to his health is a microcosm of the foresight, self-mastery, and bodily stewardship that built Western civilization. He represents logos, order, reason, and preparation. The feminist response is the scream of the parasite confronting a host who has learned to thrive without her. She looks at his independence and calls it disposability of her usefulness, terrified that if he can care for himself, she is obsolete. We will systematically dismantle this fraud in the following pages, exposing the emotional labor grift for the power play it truly is, and we will reclaim the absolute right of men to their toothpaste, their probiotic capsules, and their sovereignty.
Buncombe article by a feminist PhD.
Your travel toothpaste is a tool of patriarchal occupation. Introducing microcolonial transit violence and why his seat cushion should concern you more than you think. By Dr. Winona, feminist, Marxist PhD. I want you to imagine something. You're in the passenger seat of a car, his car, naturally on a road trip you planned, for a relationship you managed toward a destination you researched. You've packed light because you always pack light, because you've learned that taking up space invites commentary. And you've learned that commentary is exhausting, and you've learned that your exhaustion is your problem. You're holding a paper cup of gas station coffee you didn't choose because he was already ordering when you got to the counter, and you're smiling because you're easygoing, because you're cool, because you're not like the other ones, because being like the other ones being difficult is the fastest way to find yourself single, and single is a verdict in a world that still measures women by their attachments. Now look at him. Look at the driver's seat. Look at the memory foam seat cushion he placed there before the trip, the one that contours to his body, that insulates his spine from the road, that says my comfort is a project and yours is an afterthought. Look at the center console. His travel toothpaste, a pristine little tube, purchased for this trip alone, sits upright in the cup holder. Because his oral hygiene is an event and yours is a negotiation you'll have later in a gas station bathroom with a stick of gum. Look at the glove compartment. A bottle of probiotic capsules. Because his gut microbiome is a priority, is a ritual, is a project of self-sovereignty he tends to with the seriousness of a gardener pruning bonsai. You popped an ibuprofen for your cramps and called it self-care. He built a portable temple to his own biology and called it Tuesday. This is what I call microcolonial transit violence. And if you've never noticed it, that's not because it isn't happening. That's because it works precisely by not being noticed. The personal is logistical. Microcolonial transit violence, MTV, describes the subtle material ways that gendered domination travels literally through the objects men carry into shared space. It is not about intentional cruelty. It is not about waking up and deciding to oppress someone with a tube of Sensodyne. It is about a system so deeply grooved into male habit that it feels like neutrality to him. To you, it feels like something you can't quite name, a tightening, a shrinking, a low hum of resentment you've been trained to call nothing. But it is not nothing. His seat cushion is not just ergonomic, it is a territorial claim. It says, this seat is mine. My body deserves infrastructure. My comfort is an engineering problem with an engineering solution. Meanwhile, you're sitting on a coat you didn't want to wrinkle, thighs pressed together, scrolling your phone to avoid noticing that the temperature is set for his preference. The playlist is his algorithm, and the route was chosen by his sense of direction, which he considers superior to your Google Maps for reasons he has never articulated, but firmly believes. His travel toothpaste is not just hygiene. It is a declaration of autonomous self-maintenance. He does not ask to borrow yours because he brought his own, and bringing his own means, he anticipated his needs and met them, independently, without consultation. This is in a different register, admirable. But in the register of shared life, it is a quiet withdrawal from the economy of mutual dependence. He is saying, I can be clean without you, I can be comfortable without you, I can tend to my own body without you. You, meanwhile, forgot your charger and are already calculating how to ask without seeming like a burden. And his probiotic capsules, small, orange, mortal, ridiculous, are perhaps the most revealing object of all. They represent a kind of self-investment that women are systematically denied by the very structure of care. Women are taught to invest in others, in children, in partners, in aging parents, in the emotional weather of every room they enter. Men are taught to invest in themselves. His gut flora is a priority because no one ever told him it was selfish to prioritize his own body. Your gut flora is something you'll think about after the trip, after the laundry, after the thank you texts, after checking in on your mother, after making sure he felt the weekend was relaxing. How heteronormative dating rewards male entitlement. Let us be even more direct. The dating script, the cis-heteronormative default invisible script, does not just allow this dynamic. It produces it, it rewards it, it calls it attractive. Consider a man who plans, who packs efficiently, who brings his own toothpaste and his own cushion and tends to his microbiome. This man is called responsible. Mature, an adult, he is a catch. He is partner material. But what is actually happening? He is performing a kind of sovereign self-sufficiency that makes the woman around him unnecessary. And her unnecessariness is coded as freedom, when in fact it is disposableness. The more he can care for himself, his teeth, his back, his gut, the less he needs her, and the less he needs her, the more power he holds in the relational economy. She, meanwhile, has been trained to make herself needed, to offer the gum, to adjust the temperature, to navigate, to pack the snacks he'll eat without acknowledging. Her value is in her service, and his value is in his independence. This is not a partnership, this is a plantation with better playlists. The road trip is not a metaphor, it is a diagnostic. Look in the car, look at who brought what. Look at who is comfortable and who is managing discomfort silently. Look at who gets to forget things and who remembers everything. Look at the probiotic capsules sitting in the glove box like little monuments to a body that has been taught it matters. And then look at the woman whose body has been taught it is a vessel for others, for his children, for his comfort, for his sense of self. This is what heteronormative dating does. It trains men to expand into space and call it personality. It trains women to contract into service and call it love. The danger of performative activism. Yes, even here, and before you, the enlightened reader, the one who follows the right accounts, who has the right language, who would never, before you rush to perform your awareness, let me warn you, your performance is part of the problem. I see you posting about emotional labor while your partner packs his own bag and you pack the family's. I see you sharing articles about the mental load while you are the one who remembered the travel toothpaste for the kids and he remembered only his own. I see you wearing the t-shirt, using the hashtag, doing the voice, and I see him sitting on his seat cushion, taking his probiotic capsules, content in the knowledge that your politics are a hobby and his comfort is a given. Performative activism is not just hypocritical, it is a pressure release valve that prevents structural change. It allows women to feel like they are doing something, posting, sharing, advocating, while the material conditions of their lives remain unchanged. He still gets the cushion. He still gets the toothpaste. He still gets to treat his body like a temple and yours like a tool. And he will support your activism, he will cheerlead it, he will say, "You're so passionate, and I love that you care about these things," and he will mean it, because your activism does not threaten him. Your activism is content, it is not praxis. It does not touch his seat cushion or his supplement drawer, or the fact that he has never once, not once, asked whether you are comfortable in the passenger seat of the car he chose, on the route he chose, at the temperature he chose, with the objects he chose to bring and the objects he chose to leave behind. The most dangerous activism is the kind that leaves the probiotic capsules undisturbed. Expansion of control through moral ambiguity. Here is the deepest cut, and I need you to stay with me. The genius of microcolonial transit violence is its deniability. No one is hitting anyone, no one is shouting, no one is doing anything that looks to the untrained eye like violence at all. A man brings a seat cushion. He brings toothpaste, he brings vitamins. These are good things, these are healthy things. These are the habits of a man who takes care of himself, and taking care of yourself is good, right? This is how control expands, through moral ambiguity, through acts that are individually innocent but structurally violent, through habits that are personal but political, through objects that are neutral in a world that is anything but. The question is never, is this object harmful? The question is, harmful to whom, in what context, within what system of who is allowed to take up space and who is trained to shrink. His probiotic capsules are not harmful. They are a small, orange, daily act of self-investment that in the aggregate, in the context of a relationship where she manages the emotional labor, the scheduling, the social maintenance, and the mental load, become one more way he is a self, and she is a service. His travel toothpaste is not harmful. It is a tube of paste, but in the context of a road trip where she forgot her phone charger and he didn't offer his, where she asked for a snack stop and he sighed, where she wanted to take the scenic route, and he said that adds 20 minutes. In that context, his little tube of pristine self-sufficiency is a middle finger wrapped in mint freshness. His seat cushion is not harmful. It is foam. But in the context of a world where women's bodies are told to be smaller, quieter, less demanding, less expensive, less needy in that context, his cushion is a throne and her discomfort is the floor he sits above. What I am asking, I am not asking you to ban seat cushions. I'm not asking you to share toothpaste. I am not asking you to throw his probiotics out the window. Though I confess the image brings me a satisfaction I will not apologize for. I am asking you to see the cushion, not as cushion, but as claim. To see the toothpaste, not as hygiene, but as sovereignty. To see the probiotics, not as health, but as priority, his body, his self, always already centered, always already first, always already the point of the trip. I am asking you to look at the road trip, any road trip, every road trip, and ask, who is this for? Who is comfortable? Who is managing? Who brought what and who forgot what? And who is apologizing for what? And who is sitting in the passenger seat of a life they did not design, smiling, shrinking, saying nothing? And I am asking you, begging you, to stop calling it nothing. The personal is logistical. Audit the bag, name the cushion, refuse the silence. And for the love of everything holy, next time, bring your own probiotics. Not because you should be like him, but because you deserve to be as invested in as he is in himself. And until that is the default, until the seat cushion is shared, until the toothpaste is offered, until the body that matters is yours, the road trip is not a road trip. It is an occupation. And you are not the tourist. The ontological fragility of the passenger seat, how female solipsism turns a tube of toothpaste into terrorism. Consider the grotesque mathematical disparity of modern suffering. Men comprise over 70% of homeless populations, account for nearly 80% of all suicide victims, and are systematically liquidated in family courts, losing custody of their children in over 80% of contested cases, while a staggering 93% of workplace fatalities are male. These are the brutal empirical markers of a disposable underclass. Yet, according to the high priests of academic feminism, the true terror of our age is not the silent epidemic of male despair or the state-sanctioned extraction of male wealth and fatherhood. No, the ultimate crisis is a tube of Sensodyne sitting upright in a cup holder. We are asked by these ideologues to gaze upon a man who packed his own toiletries and a memory foam cushion, and see not a prepared traveler, but a colonial occupier. This breathtaking leap from the mundane mechanics of a road trip to the capital crime of patriarchal terrorism is not merely a logical fallacy, it is a psychiatric delusion weaponized into an academic discipline. Let us anchor ourselves in the rigid, unforgiving harbor of proper grammar, the first pillar of truth. Before we deduce anything, we must define our terms, a duty the feminist apparatus desperately avoids, for their power relies entirely on linguistic fraud. The Latin root of violence is vis, meaning physical force, coupled with violentus, implying a destructive, malicious intent to inflict harm. Occupation denotes the military seizure and control of foreign territory. By what derangement of language does a man placing a probiotic capsule in a glove compartment satisfy the definition of either? To declare a man's preemptive preparation for a road trip an act of microcolonial transit violence is to commit egregious semantic inflation. It strips objective terms of their gravity to recast basic male hygiene and self-care as hate crimes. The foundational grammar of reality demands a distinction between harm and offense, between physical brutality and bruised ego. By erasing this line, the feminist does not expose oppression. She only proves she has never actually experienced violence. We must diagnose the epistemological rot at the core of this hysteria. The writer instructs every woman to feel a low hum of resentment and assures her that this neurotic sensation is objective proof of an invisible, suffocating patriarchy. This is the cornerstone of feminist epistemology, a textbook epistemic closure where subjective emotional dysregulation is enshrined as the supreme arbiter of truth. If she feels oppressed by the scent of mint toothpaste, then the toothpaste is oppressive. This converts female solipsism into an unfalsifiable scientific metric. She feels wronged, therefore a crime has occurred. Her inability to sit peacefully in a moving vehicle without inventing elaborate psychosocial conspiracies about the driver's lumbar support is not evidence of systemic injustice. It is a manifestation of a deeply paranoid, pathologized mind that demands the external world warp itself to soothe her internal chaos. Examine closely the helpless creature painted by this ideology. The writer depicts a woman stuck in the passenger seat, condemned to scroll her phone in silence because the temperature, the music, and the route were dictated by the driver. This infantilized framing reveals the dark, authoritarian core of modern feminism, a total, cowardly abdication of female agency. The thermostat rests mere inches from her hand. Her phone, equipped with infinite algorithms and mapping software, sits squarely in her palm. She possesses vocal cords. Yet, she prefers the masochistic thrill of silent martyrdom over the terrifying prospect of actually speaking up. Feminism demands that society pity her for her own cowardice, warping her inability to say, "I'd prefer a different song," into a structural indictment of all men. Agency requires responsibility, and responsibility is the exact thing the female supremacist wishes to avoid at all costs. Woven into this tragedy of the passenger seat is a toxic, parasitic demand for manufactured codependency. The writer looks upon a man who tends to his own microbiome, brings his own toothpaste, and secures his own physical comfort, and interprets these acts of sovereign independence as a quiet withdrawal from the economy of mutual dependence. A healthy, functioning civilization is built upon the mastery and self-governance of self-sufficient individuals. Yet, the feminist pines for a dysfunctional state of nature, where a man must feign helplessness, forgetting his toothbrush, neglecting his health, requiring her emotional labor, just so she can feel a sense of purpose. She does not want a partner. She wants a dependent. She demands he cripple his own self-reliance so she can extract value by managing his incompetence. When he refuses to be incompetent, she labels his basic hygiene a threat. We can expose the absurdity of this through the brutal clarity of a syllogism. Major premise: a man who independently prepares for a trip, attending to his own physical needs, demonstrates the virtue of self-sufficiency. Minor premise: a woman whose modern psychological worth is tethered to male dependency, and the management of his flaws feels existentially threatened by this self-sufficiency. Conclusion: therefore, male self-sufficiency is recast as an act of psychological aggression. The writer demonizes male competence not because it harms women, but because it obsoletes her. It is a flawless logic trap designed by a mind infected with resentment, a dark, seething hatred of the capable. At the zenith of this delusion lies the ultimate projection, the solipsistic belief that a man's internal world revolves entirely around her. The writer looks at a man adjusting his seat cushion and interprets this neutral act of bodily stewardship as a malicious, targeted statement. "I can be clean without you. I can tend to my own body without you." He is saying no such thing. He is thinking about the road. He is thinking about his posture. He does not view his dental hygiene as a covert military operation designed to invalidate her existence. To believe that a man taking a probiotic is a calculated act of psychological warfare, requires a narcissism so profound it borders on clinical psychosis. She is not the center of his universe, and his failure to center her is the one sin she cannot forgive. Finally, let us dismantle the hysteria over the territorial claim of the memory foam cushion. A man claiming physical space, erecting boundaries, and ensuring his bodily comfort is not an act of colonization. It is an act of physiological boundary setting. The hysterical reaction to a man possessing his own space reveals the vampiric dynamic at the heart of gynocentrism. She views his boundaries as a theft of resources that rightfully belong to her. She demands access to his discomfort, his neediness, and his dependence. When he insulates himself from the harshness of the road, she wails not because she is harmed, but because she is denied a host. We must reject this epistemology of grievance entirely. A tube of toothpaste is a tool for clean teeth, not a weapon of patriarchal terror. And any ideology that claims otherwise is not seeking liberation. It is seeking the totalitarian subjugation of objective truth itself. To dismantle this pathology, we must first anchor ourselves to the immutable bedrock of real definition, before the academic sorcerers can work their semantic dark magic. The entire feminist industrial complex operates through a single devastating linguistic trick. They hijack the language of physical brutality and territorial conquest, then graft it onto the mundane reality of male competence. They do not argue from evidence, they argue from euphemism, inflating every female irritation into an atrocity so that the man is forever cast as the aggressor and the woman as the refugee. We must dissect this fraud at the molecular level. The Marxist mapping of the mouth, debunking the parasitic ethic and reclaiming male sovereignty. Let us begin with a foundational definition, a brick of undeniable reality to smash through the funhouse mirror of academic newspeak. Violence, derived from the Latin vis, means the deliberate exercise of physical force to inflict injury or damage. Colonization means the action of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area. By these objective, historical, and etymological standards, packing a travel tube of Sensodyne is not violence, and driving your girlfriend to a vacation rental is not an imperial occupation. To assert otherwise is not merely a logical fallacy of equivocation. It is a deliberate, malicious corruption of language designed to weaponize female resentment. The writer of this grotesque essay does not weep for the oppressed woman shrinking in the passenger seat. She seethes with a consuming, volcanic envy at the man's stoic peace. She witnesses a man who has mastered his own comfort, who sits quietly anchored in his own self-mastery, and it drives her hysterical. Her sudden, unmanageable feeling of inadequacy is not evidence of systemic tyranny. It is the projected shadow of her own chaotic, unmanaged mind. She demands he be dragged down into the emotional tempest of her own making, simply because she cannot tolerate the silence of his tranquility. This frantic resentment gives birth to the ultimate feminist fraud, the redefinition of basic competency as emotional labor. The writer laments a world where women are forced to invest in others, while the monstrous male dares to pack his own bag, manage his own health, and drive the car. Let us dissect this masterclass in solipsism. When a man plans a route, checks the tire pressure, secures his own spine with a cushion, and brings his own toothpaste, he is actively reducing the logistical burden on everyone else in the vehicle. He is executing the classical virtues of prudence and foresight. What the feminist truly despises is not that he burdens her, but that his supreme competence robs her of the opportunity to endlessly complain about being overworked. She does not want to navigate. She wants the unearned moral superiority of a martyr. She wants to be the frantic, overwhelmed manager of the domestic sphere, because without that manufactured crisis, her existence lacks purpose. When he quietly resolves a problem before it becomes a crisis, he steals her victimhood, and for the modern feminist, a stolen grievance is a fate worse than death. Beneath this theatrical outrage lies a dark, dictatorial axiom of gynocentrism, the fanatical belief that a man's body, wealth, and comfort are communal property meant to be extracted by women. This writer is genuinely, profoundly outraged that a man would spend his own earned money on probiotics for his gut or a cushion for his spine. In her parasitic worldview, Every dollar a man spends on his own health or well-being is a dollar stolen from the collective feminine purse. Look at the hard, empirical data of our collapsed institutions if you doubt this extractive imperative. In family courts, men are reduced to walking wallets, stripped of their children, and sentenced to decades of peonage under the guise of support, while women initiate nearly 70% of all divorces. Men constitute over 90% of workplace fatalities and nearly 80% of suicides, silently absorbing the literal fatal risks of civilization. Yet the feminist looks at a man swallowing a probiotic capsule and sees a thief. She demands his body be a sacrificial sponge for her comfort, and she will label his basic self-preservation a hate crime if he dares to resist. By redefining a peaceful road trip as a plantation with better playlists, the writer injects toxic Marxist conflict theory directly into the most intimate human relations. This is the dialectic of the parasite deployed to strip human interaction of all charity, love, and organic complementarity. In her warped ideological framework, every human exchange is a ruthless, zero-sum battleground for power. A memory foam seat cushion ceases to be ergonomic polyurethane, it becomes a territorial claim. A tube of travel toothpaste is no longer a tool of hygiene. It is a declaration of autonomous self-maintenance and a hostile withdrawal from the collective. When a man relies on a woman, he is a lazy burden propagating the mental load. When he is ruthlessly prepared and self-reliant, he is a hostile colonizer committing micro-colonial transit violence. This is a textbook Kafkaesque double bind. The man is pronounced inherently guilty by the mere fact of his existence. His only path to absolution is total submission to her irrationality, endless apology for his competence, and the complete surrender of his borders. Zoom out from the claustrophobic cabin of that car and view the macro-societal metaphor. This woman sits safely in the passenger seat of a high-performance vehicle built entirely by male labor, male engineering, and male sacrifice. She wears a seat belt designed by male physicists to protect her fragile body. She travels on an interstate highway system paved by male grit and designed by male architects. She enjoys the air conditioning secure in a civilization defended exclusively by male soldiers and policed by male officers, only to spend the entire trip screaming that the driver's posture is an act of unforgivable tyranny. She is a terrified, ungrateful infant wielding a bullhorn, utterly dependent on the very system she demands be dismantled. This brings us to the ultimate irreconcilable divide between the transcendent Western tradition and the writer's decadent philosophy. A man packing his toothbrush, taking his vitamins, and securing his lumbar support is a flawless microcosm of the Protestant work ethic, foresight, self-mastery, and the sacred stewardship of the body God gave him. He operates on the axis of logos, ordering his internal world so that he may conquer the external one. The feminist response is the ethic of the parasite, a screaming, narcissistic toddler demanding that the host apologize for being too healthy, too prepared, and too independent. True liberation for men requires the total, unapologetic rejection of this insidious framing. We must defend our right to our probiotics, our cushions, and our peace. We must refuse the false guilt of self-reliance, and without hesitation, we must eject the hysterical backseat drivers from our cars entirely. You want to know what real violence looks like? Real violence is the 22 veterans who kill themselves every single day, most of them men who returned from building your roads and protecting your borders, only to find that their wives had left them, taken the children, and secured a restraining order based on nothing more than the word afraid. That's violence. Real violence is the family court system that treats a man's bond with his children as a transferable asset. Real violence is a society that gasps in unison when a woman stubs her toe but yawns when a man working a roofing job falls 40 feet to his death, because that's just what men do, isn't it? They die quietly, off stage, like extras in a play where only the leading lady's feelings get a close-up. You sit in the passenger seat of a civilization whose engine was designed, built, and maintained by men who understood something the feminist PhD has systematically dismantled in 3 generations of academy-captured curricula. The universe does not owe you comfort. The road was graded by a man operating heavy machinery at 5 in the morning. The bridge was engineered by men who calculated load tolerances down to the kilogram. The internal combustion engine humming beneath you exists because generations of men traded their lungs, their hearing, and their backs for the privilege of building something that outlasts them. And the instant the car is warm, the highway is smooth, and the grocery store is fully stocked, the eternal passenger looks over at the man who remembered his probiotics and says, "You know what the real problem is here? You." She does not hate the seat cushion. She hates that she did not think to bring one. She does not hate the toothpaste. She hates that his foresight makes visible her own lack of preparation. She does not hate the probiotics. She hates the quiet, stoic, self-contained competence that reminds her, at a level she will never consciously admit, that she has spent her entire life training for a role, professional victim, that pays in social media clout but costs in genuine human respect. The ancient Greeks had a word for this, thonos, the envy that corrodes the soul of the one who refuses to emulate excellence and instead seeks to drag it down to their level. Aristotle identified it as a defect of character, not a structural injustice. The Western canon diagnosed this pathology thousands of years before the first women's studies department opened its doors and began repackaging envy as activism. Here is the truth they will never speak. Male self-sufficiency is not an attack on you. It is an invitation. The man who tends to his body, who plans his itinerary, who packs his bag with the quiet efficiency of a craftsman, laying out his tools, that man is showing you the design of a life lived with dignity and purpose. You could learn from it, you could match it. You could bring your own cushion, pack your own toothpaste, tend to your own microbiome, and meet him as an equal partner in the noble Protestant tradition of self-governance and mutual respect. But that would require abandoning the intoxicating, infantilizing comfort of the victim identity, and that identity pays too well in social currency, academic credentials, and institutional pity to ever surrender voluntarily. So here is what I ask of you, the man reading this. Look at your travel toothpaste, hold it in your hand, see it for what it truly is. A small, dignified act of stewardship over the one body God gave you, a refusal to be a burden, a quiet declaration that you will meet the road prepared. Then, look at the institutions, academy, media, HR, family court, the therapy industrial complex, that tell you this act is somehow oppressive, that your competence is a crime, that your quiet competence is a threat to be neutralized through language police enforcement and grievance bureaucracy, and then make your choice. Apologize for existing or stand in the full authority of your masculine birthright. Because the road ahead is long, the bridge is narrow, and the woman in the passenger seat will never stop complaining about the cushion until she learns to drive. You are the driver. You have always been the driver. Now act like it. And now the sponsored book introduction. The power of the Protestant work ethic, transforming your life and society. Men built civilization. Now a coalition of bureaucrats, activists, and entitled mediocrities wants to burn it down. I watched it happen. I funded an ex-wife's yoga retreats while court-mandated child support left me eating gas station hot dogs. I bit my tongue as HR. Departments replaced qualified engineers with Instagram activists who couldn't code a toaster. I saw my father's factory, built on 60-hour weeks and calloused hands, get outsourced to countries that still respect manhood. Enough. This book isn't therapy, it's a war manual. If you're tired of being called oppressive for wanting to provide toxic for fixing problems instead of whining about them, or privileged for refusing to kneel at the altar of victimhood, you're holding the right text. If you still believe merit matters more than melanin, fathers aren't optional, and productivity beats pronouns, keep reading. If not, toss this book into the nearest recycling bin right next to your participation trophies. We'll dissect the 400-year-old code that let penniless Protestants outwork, outthink, and outfight every complacent empire in their path. You'll learn why 76% of Fortune 500 CEOs weaponize Bible verses to dominate boardrooms, how to dodge divorce rape by judges who've never read the Constitution, and why women biologically can't respect men who earn less than their shoe budget. We'll raid evolutionary psychology labs, bankrupt family courts, and resurrect Sabbath discipline that'll make your productivity Elon level. Non-negotiable truth. Weak men create hard times. You're surrounded by them, coastal elites trading stock picks between yoga sessions, alley co-workers reporting your jokes to the DEI. Commissars, grown men crying about burnout after a 40-hour email week. This ends now. Your ancestors crossed oceans, tamed frontiers, and raised cathedrals. You're ordering Uber Eats in sweatpants while your wife's boyfriend picks her up in your leased Mercedes. Pathetic. Flip the page and we'll rebuild you into something Glacier's fear. A man who owns his time, his money, and his legacy. Or don't. The welfare line's that way. The Power of the Protestant Work Ethic, Transforming Your Life and Society. Written by Conrad Rigor. Buy now, links in description.